Hello and thanks for staying with us. Customs seized hard drugs from smugglers operating along the nation's borderline. Also on Customs report, the Contractor General of Customs speaks on revenue drive of the Customs with members of the National Assembly. Plus, more report. I am Igiseme Itinye. Stay tuned. The Nigerian Customs Service has continued to increase the revenue base as approved by government. The Contractor General of Customs told members of the National Assembly that the Nigerian Customs Service will always implement laws that are approved by government. According to him, customs don't make laws, but only implement laws as approved by the federal government.
I appreciate this committee for coming up with this session, which is an interactive section, and we hope and pray that through this we will be able to learn more and increase our ways and means of generating the revenue that the country deserves. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, let me, before I get into comments that affect customs directly, permit me to divert a little, to digress a little, and that is with regards to the Financial Act, that 2022 that was signed by Mr. President, which was architected by this National Assembly. The Finance Act, Mr. President, seek to, in section 22 of the Finance Bill, which has become Finance Act 2022, it seeks to amend FRS law, section 68, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, by allowing the Act to take precedence over any other law with regards to administration, assessment, collection, accounting, enforcement of taxes and levies, and due to the federal government and the Federation of Nigeria. When this law was signed, though we haven't received an official copy, we were able to get a copy. The Act, Mr. President, did not state clearly the extent or scope of the taxes or levies in question. We are aware that the taxes and levies under the responsibility of FRS are income tax, personal income tax, capital gain tax, VAT, etc. But this law is so wide and so open that we in the Nigerian Customs perceived it as having also affected our own collection. I would read some part of the law for clearance, for clarity, Mr. Chairman. The law here, Mr. Chairman, because if we are talking of collection, we must be sure that we still have the mandate to collect. The law states in section 61A, that's the amended, that this act and the laws listed in the first schedule to this act shall take precedence over any other laws with regards to the administration, assessment, collection, accounting, enforcement of taxes and levies due to the federal government or Federation of Nigeria, except in cases.
The CG also speaks on happenings around the service.
Such in cases that tax or levy is a subject of litigation in a court of competent jurisdiction, and if the provisions of any act of any other law, including the enactment in the first schedule, are inconsistent with the provisions of this act, the provisions of this act shall prevail, and the provisions of that other laws, to the extent of the inconsistency, should be void. Which to me, and our understanding of this, is that all other laws, which are laws that mandate us to collect, if they are inconsistent with this, then they are voided. Which that means the laws that mandate us as revenue generating agencies are voided. completely. Which that means we do not have the responsibility to collect. So, Mr. Chairman, Senate President, if we do not have the responsibility to collect, then what are we going to discuss here? Senate President, sir, I want to go to subsection 2 of the same act. It says, subject to subsection 1, and notwithstanding any other law imposing taxes or levies in Nigeria, the service shall be the primary agency of the federal government of Nigeria, responsible for the administration, assessment, collection, accounting, enforcement of taxes and levies due to the Federation and the federal government, or any of its agencies, except as may be authorized by a minister responsible for finance or regulation as approved by the National Assembly. The third part of it, criminalize any act. And it says, subject to subsection 1, it shall be an offense for any person to carry out or authorize any other to carry out the function of administering, assessment, collection, accounting, or enforcement of taxes and levies due to the Federation and the federal government of Nigeria, except as may be provided under this act or any of the laws listed in the first schedule to this act or as authorized by minister responsible for finance and by regulation and approved by National Assembly. Mr. Chairman, we have consulted with lawyers, we have consulted with the legal luminaries, and the conclusion is that this act is confusing. And if stakeholders decide to take leverage of this, they can decide to say, we are not supposed to collect duties and levies. And therefore, they only pay to FRS. And that will bring a complete, total chaos in this country. So I think before we go to Mr. President, and of course the committee chairman, we want please you to take time and tell us the extent of this law and the scope of this law, so that we know if we are still legitimately allowed by the law to collect. If we are not, then I think we do not have any business being here.
You are watching the program Customs Report. The Assistant Controller General of Nigerian Customs Service, in charge of Zone A, has said that the Nigerian Customs Service will continue to educate freight forwarders and importers on the new policy as approved by government. She made a pledge in Lagos where she represented the Controller General of Customs on VIN violation in Lagos. She speaks more on a number of issues.
They were actually trained. We had 3 sessions of trainings with them. So this introduction of the VIN wasn't supposed to. We didn't expect this kind of response from them. But because of this, we're still going to go back to our drawing board and modify some of the issues they have raised. When we have all these trainings, they don't attend. They leave it to the boys in the office that they cannot ask questions. So we're going to now do it zone by zone to sensitize them and educate them properly on this VIN valuation method and other introductions going forward from now.
I want to assure you that that 4 hours will not really cause much problem in our joint operations, and we'll do our best to make sure that we operate within that 20 hours continuously. The officers, especially those that are going to work at the scanning site, you must operate within the limit under standard. Here is a very clear and direct examination. There's nothing. Your analyst very well, and we should lies up to the declaration made, so that at the end of the day we'll have free flow of containers that pass through scanning site. You see, when we utilize the scanners very well, there is bound to be high turnover. That is, the number of containers that will be releasing will be high compared to what we are now doing physically. So all hands must be on deck. We are going to make sure everybody is on his toes And by the grace of God, scanning have come to stay. I will make sure that it is not inconvenient any importer or agent, but to make things much more faster and easier. So I'm appealing and calling for a cooperation. And as I said, please, this should not be the end of the sensitization exercise. Anything that may come after, if you have any question or further clarification, please put it through me, and I will make sure to get to the appropriate that you get, so that you get clarification and more clearance.
Conducted a sensitization for the SOP, which is the standard operating procedure for the use of scanners. As you are aware, Onne Port is one of the ports that has had scanners newly installed, and we are at the point where we want to operationalize these scanners. So we want to bring our stakeholders up to speed as to, one, the procedure that will enable, trade facilitation, the speedy clearance of goods out of the ports. This SOP was designed after painstaking analysis of our processes and also looking at the needs of our stakeholders. So it was designed to facilitate compliant trade. And that is what the service is emphasizing. The service wants the procedure to be made more efficient and more effective for compliant traders. And we know that non-intrusive examination, or as scanners as they used to call it, is the best way to go, looking at trade facilitation, because it discourages, human contact. It goes into the details of what is in the container, and it matches documentary check with what is available physically as images that result from taking containers through these non-intrusive equipment methods of examination. So we've tried to achieve a lot by enlightening the public as to what they stand to gain from using or following these procedures. Today we've had in our midst, terminal operators, owners of bonded warehouses, shipping company operators, clearing agents, and even also our officers, who are the ones that will actually be running the non-intrusive equipment sites. We've tried to bring everybody together under one platform. We've tried to also listen to their concerns and their observations of what they think will be the possible challenges that we may encounter when we start to use this equipment. We've noted all their concerns, and whatever it is that might result in the negative impact of the use of this equipment, we'll go back, fine-tune the system, and make sure that we deliver on our mandate, which is the smooth facilitation of trade and enable an environment where people will incur less costs as they use our ports for their cargo.
The newly appointed area controller in charge of Kebbi Command within 3 weeks has made a seizure of over 32 million naira from smugglers. The controller, Joseph Atta, made a seizure of cannabis worth millions of naira from smugglers operating along the nation's borderline. A total of 723 parcels of suspected cannabis seized by Kebbi Command has been handed over to the National Drug Enforcement Agency. The controller stated that the cannabis has a street value of over 28 million naira.
Any person who takes to importation or smuggling of things such as cannabis and indeed any other drug cannot mean well for our society. And those who patronize them are also not meaning well for the society, because this is not a daily Lipton tea that you want to take, or bread that you want to eat every day. This is something that can only be a catalyst for unrest, a catalyst for crimes and criminalities in our society. Yes, there are people who want to make profit. There are people who don't care what will happen as a result of having this in the society. All they care about is the profit that we make from such thing. So that calls for me and you, and indeed all well-meaning Nigerians, to come together and fight against these people. And the only way to fight against this is to provide no hiding space for them. Give information to security forces to interdict this. What we get in our society is that sometimes we find people who provide a hiding place for such people.
So the renewed onslaught against smugglers in the state had started yielding positive results. According to him, the item was seized within 3 weeks since he took over the command.
And 23 parcels of cannabis sativa to the Commander, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Kebbi State Command, in the spirit of interagency collaboration. The items were seized by the gallant officers and men of the command along Kamba Bunza Road based on credible intelligence. The street value have been conservatively put at 28,920,000 naira. You will recall that after I took over barely 3 weeks ago, I promised that I will do all it takes to ensure that smuggling is never given a breathing space in Kebbi Area Command. I specifically mentioned fuel and foreign parboiled rice as products that my men will continue to keep a very watchful eye on. The operational strategy of the command has been restructured and rejigged. Patrol teams in the command have been reorientated with anti-bunkering teams and rapid response squad created to heighten the offensive against smugglers. These teams have the mandate of ensuring that rice and fuel smugglers do not have a field day in our area of jurisdiction. Already, our efforts and determination have started paying off in just about 3 weeks. We have intercepted and seized 7,350 liters of premium motor spirits, PMS, 16 bales of second-hand clothing and other items with a duty-paid value of 32,285,154 naira.
Other items seized include foreign rice, fuel, 16 bales of second-hand clothing, and other items with total paid value of over 32.5 million naira.
Underlisted seizures, which were intercepted between 3rd and 28th of February 2022. 1. 6,749 bags of smuggled parboiled rice at 50 kg, each equivalent to 11 trailers load. 36,775 liters of premium motor spirits. 599 bales of second-hand clothing. 906 cartons of frozen poultry products. 2,001 pieces of used tires. 175 pieces of used compressors. 180 cartons of foreign soap. 52 used fridges. 285 cartons of unregistered pharmaceutical products. 13 units of fairly used vehicles. 15 cartons and 23 bales of lace materials. 338 cartons of mosquito repellent coil. All with a duty paid value of 587,901,165 naira. Revenue generated through recoveries of low value, transfer of value, wrong classification, and public auction sales of PMS amounted to 79,067,560 naira 75 kobo. Gentlemen of the press, you will agree with me today that Southwest Zone has become quite hot for smugglers to operate freely in recent time. We are, however, not singing a victory song yet because of what we still have up our sleeves. As I always say, no one claps with one hand. The fight against smuggling and smugglers needs the cooperation and collaboration of everyone. We need credible information to successfully combat smuggling, considering the overwhelming negative consequences. Smuggling is a complete monster with a direct link to illicit drugs and illicit drug abuse, armed robberies, kidnapping, balance of trade deficit, unemployment, increased crime waves, high mortality rate as a result of fake drugs and youth restiveness. It is therefore our collective responsibility to say no to smuggling. My message to smugglers, as usual, is to eschew smuggling and embrace legitimate trade or business, or be ready to damn the consequences. Nobody can stop smuggling outright. We are trying our best. Just a few days ago, we brought in, almost about 1,134 kegs at once. And we are from where? At Igbo Iberu. If you know the place, that Igbo Iberu is in between Iwoye that connects Oyo. So they will load from Iwoye, Ogun, then link up that place. Less 5 minutes drive, you are already in French land. We got them. We brought them here. The government, they have actually tried, and we are making effort to ensure that we want to establish a unit solely responsible for smuggling of fuel. We want to have that unit. They will have nothing to do with any other thing than looking for fuel. And on daily basis, even after that one, we will still see them bringing some kegs. But you know, their smugglers are highly unrelenting. I wonder where they make the money. But we are getting to where we'll get them now. Because, like I said, we will look for the kingpin. Those small rats are not the one. There's somebody in there blowing the trumpet.
Just before the end of this week edition of the program, Customs Report, we brought you a report where cannabis worth over millions of naira was accepted by Kebbi Command. For me, Igeseme Etinye, thanks for watching.